Hello, everyone. I'm glad you are back to Courageous Leadership with Virginia Prodan. I am your host, Virginia Prodan. I am an international human rights attorney, a speaker, an author at the memoir Saving My Assassin, published by Tyndale House Publisher. You can find the memoir at virginiaprodanbooks.com/product/book. We are here to train you and to encourage you to live a life of significance and success as God intended for you to live that life. And we love to encourage you and also to invite courageous leaders. And one of the courageous leaders that we invited today is Dennis Kneale. He's the author, and also he is an award-winning journalist, media strategist, advisor for a senior executive. He serves as spokesperson for Save Our City, an organization working to counter the effect of anti-business policy that we experience lately, ideological extremism and local economy. Before that, he anchored at the CNBC and Fox News, following senior editorial role at the Wall Street Journal and for Forbes, where he served as managing editor. He also can tell you more about his past and his present. Dennis, we are so glad to have you. We are delighted to hear what you want to share with our audience.
Well, it's so good to see you, Victoria, and I appreciate your time. Right now, at this moment, it's like 9 in the morning in Portland, Oregon. I flew in last night because there's a huge leadership conference on the future of the state. And for a journalist, it's shooting fish in a barrel. My gosh, a former governor's here, the current governor is here. You've got 2 U.S. senators from Oregon and the whole bit. And the reason I'm here is because I'm pursuing my new book with working title Oregoners, which refers to how many people and businesses are leaving this state and leaving the city of Portland because of their very well-meaning liberal policies that have just backfired. It's the second highest income tax rate in the entire country here in Portland, second after only New York City, where I live. And yet for all of those high taxes, 13.9% local tax on top of 9.9% state, for all of that, a lot of people here feel like they're not getting their money's worth out of it, and that the state is really hemorrhaging income. $1 billion a year in income is leaving the state to seek greener pastures. Homelessness in Portland is at 4 times the rate per capita in the rest of the country. It's just a mess. And they mean well with their liberal policies, but they're just crushing business. And only now are we seeing the people of Portland rise up. There's a gap between them and the leaders of the Democrat Party who just keep getting reelected over and over, and they're not listening. So I'm here to encourage them to listen.
It's not only, you're right, it's not only the tax that kills them, but it's also the Marxist ideology that those liberals are trying to impose. And many times people are too fearful, or they have been too fearful, thinking that someone else will speak for them and, things will go better. Or as we can see, not only in your state, but also in New York, people embrace socialists, thinking that socialists will resolve their problems. I grew up in socialist and communist in Romania, and I know from my own experience that socialism is a land of lies and a prison land. It's the government will make you a puppet in your hands. But what do you think needs to be done in order for people in that particular state or even in New York to rise up and say, I need to stand up for my rights?
Yeah, I think that I've talked to over a dozen officials here in Oregon and Portland about a lot of this. And they tell me that one problem is the state hasn't hit bottom yet. It hasn't got at the absolutely worst level to make the people rise up and rebel. Now, that may be starting to happen. You've got thousands of signatures being collected right now for no tax Oregon because they're upset that the governor just pushed through a fat new tax increase for the Department of Transportation because they had cost overruns. But never mind firing somebody at the DOT for those overruns. No, let's just raise taxes still more. Now, one of the problems here in Portland, and the reason I'm focused on this for a book is because this is the canary in a coal mine for other liberal cities or for other states. As soon as you have a supermajority, the way they do here in Oregon, both houses of the state legislature have a supermajority. They don't need Republicans at all. They just passed this new DOT tax without any Republican vote at all. And even a Democrat organizer who helped build that supermajority over the last 20 years has told me that he's now realized that, shoot, when you don't have a loyal opposition or even a disloyal opposition to come in and push back, you have no diversity of ideas. And so you're just in this insane environment where people just keep reinforcing each other. And one economist, I believe his name's Wilkerson, has said, look, we're in danger of a doom loop spiraling downward. More rich people leave because of the taxes that are so high. That means our income goes lower. That means we can't provide the services we wanted to provide. That makes more people then leave. And so it becomes a doom spiral that's very hard to break out of. And so what you need to do is, first of all, you ought to pass a law to stop unions from contributing to local campaigns because 3 unions dominate the politics here. I just heard from a Democrat source that 2 weeks ago, the SEIU, Government Workers Union, handed the fiscal 2026 annual state government budget to the governor's office, which is filled with aides who used to be union officials, and said, hey, here's your spending plan for the next year. This didn't come from government, it came from unions. And unions have a real grip on this state and this city. And I challenge anyone out there to tell me any union-dominated business that has ever truly thrived. Instead, unions kind of bring problems. And that's one of the things that's happened here. Unions and NGOs.
Well, the way you explain what is going on in Portland, it reminded me in communist Romania. We got to a point where only we have one person, the dictator, Nicolae Ceausescu, on the ballot, and no one else was on the ballot. I remember even in the ballot booth, I remember cutting his name off and putting someone else, taking the risk, knowing that, the government. But it's hard to believe that people, free people in America, their experience and they had seen what communism has done for so long, are doing and repeating what is unacceptable in a free country. One idea that came to my mind as you are talking about is why people don't act like they are part of the liberal group and be there, but be part of the liberal idea with a Republican, with a freedom, proposal. And instead of trying to win people for Republican Party that people already were brainwashed, why they don't try to be part of the liberals group that will bring Republican freedom ideas and change, because there must be a way. We always have to find solutions to the problems that we experience in our lives.
Yes. I think, I've always been taught that conservatives view a situation and weigh the outcomes and see what it's led to. Liberals lead by dogma, by belief. Let's do the right thing, and we'll worry about the results later. And that gap between the two means that there is no accountability when government fails, socialist government fails. I mean, of course, people, especially young people, are suckers for the message that, hey, free everything. I mean, New York City, where I've lived for over 40 years, just elected this foreign-born Muslim socialist extremist as mayor. Well, in Portland, the previous November 2024, They said, hold my beer. They elected 4 members of the Democrat Socialists of America, the group that backed Mamdani in New York, 4 members to the 12-member council. They have 2 de facto socialist allies so that they now dominate the city agenda. And then what happens is things like this. They passed 3 new taxes. Voters approved some of them. One for homelessness services, another for, let's see, it was homelessness, climate change, okay? And then a third thing, I think, for drug abuse. Those 3 taxes together have collected $1.2 billion more than government has even been able to hand out and spend, okay? It collected so much more. Along comes a Republican guy, Dan Levy, an operative. He's working with a business group. They want to get a proposal on the ballot in Portland that says, look, this one climate change fund has something like $250 million a year. It's collecting more than it's spending. How about we take 50 million of that and put it over into the cops, because we have only 800 police in Portland. That's 1993 staffing levels. We ought to increase that 50% to 1,200 cops, and then we'll be at the national average of 2.2 cops per 1,000 people, or 2.0 instead of only 1.2. Well, that's a simple proposal. And business owners, especially downtown, who are getting burglarized, their windows broken, break-ins 10 times a year, they're begging for more cops. And yet the city council, this socialist-dominated city council, opposes even that suggestion because, police bad.
It is, well, and you have now in New York that after they pass this situation, what is in Portland, now the mayor there wants to replace the police with voluntary, socialist people, and
Yes.
that's exactly what's going to happen if we don't. But there is all this free stuff is not working. I am telling you, I grew up, I fought against socialists and communists in Romania. By the grace of God, I am alive. And if we fight, we can win. But when the socialist is in power, gets in power, it will take everything from you. It will not give you free things anymore. Right
Right.
now, the free things are the handouts. Instead of giving people hands up in order
Right.
to grow and do things, they give you hands out. Why? Because they want to keep you as a puppet in their power. And that's exactly, they will take your guns from you, they will take your freedom to worship God, and they will replace God, who is with government, because they said God is not helping you. We, the government, are helping you. They will close churches, and freedom of speech and freedom of religions will be suffered. I mean, the consequences are dear, and people will pay a big price for that.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, you mentioned religion, and one political person I talked to here said that one of the defining characteristics of Oregon and Portland is a lack of religion, a lack of faith, that there's a church attendance is way down, especially in this region, and that and yet church attendance is a clear sign of a conservative voter. And yet you don't see that here at all. And so they're not thinking at that level. And they do look to government to fix and solve everything, when really government cannot fix almost anything. All right. Government is not good at it. Business is good at it. And the problem in Oregon, and in Portland especially, is they have a real antipathy and resentment of business, capitalism, wealth creation. I had one guy, an expert on the homeless, tell me that we used to be about social services, but now it's about social justice. And they see the homeless as victims, honorable victims of capitalism. Well, that's not true. Probably 90% are addicted to drugs. Probably 60% have mental health problems, which is why they're addicted to drugs. I mean, they're not noble characters who are victims. They are suffering from their own bad decisions. And what happens, though, Victoria, is this
Virginia,
homeless
Virginia,
industrial complex. Virginia,
Virginia.
sorry, Virginia. My apologies. What happens,
No problem.
Virginia, is that, and I've forgotten my point. Oh, this homeless industrial complex, if you're the food bank for the homeless and you bring in literally here over $100 million a year, um, you put yourself out of business if you end up getting the homeless off the street. So are they really motivated to solve this problem or instead just keep treating the patient? Here in Portland, they hand out clean foil so you can put your fentanyl powder on the foil and be able to snort it nice and cleanly. They hand out clean crack pipes and clean needles. Well, I had a guy who was homeless for 4 years on the street here in the early 2000s. He's now been sober 19 years as of November 20th. And he told me the way they're blowing it here is, if you want to end homelessness, make it as miserable and uncomfortable as possible. But here, Multnomah County, which is where Portland sits, hands out free tents and tarps to the homeless and encourages them to park almost anywhere they want and camp, which of course then sets up half the fires in the city are started by homeless people, accidentally or otherwise. And then a city crew comes along, sweeps the area, picks up all the tents and tarps issued by the county, throws them out, and the homeless goes and gets more tents and tarps from the county. And so you end up kind of perpetuating this homeless loop. And one expert, Kevin Dahlgren, who has stuff on the X platform, he puts up several videos a day. He used to be a homeless worker for the homeless, but now he's instead questioning the entire complex. And he just says, when's the last time a counselor went out on the street and said to someone, let's get you off the street. Let's reunite you with your family. Let's get you off drugs. No, instead, they just keep enabling their bad decisions, which is why they are insured of future employment, because they are not solving this problem. They are assisting it.
Yes, that's exactly what the problem is, that they created problems and they continue to do it. They created this not only with homeless people, they created with addicted people, they created with single parents. Instead of giving single parents a possibility and an opportunity, to rise up from divorce and everything, to go and do these things also for the next generation. Kids are saying, it's so easy, you just receive handout from the government. You don't have to. You have situation in our school where kids are brainwashed about how beautiful socialist is. Well, socialist takes you in a cage and tells you what to do, when to do, what to think, and how to be a puppet in government. In my own country, Romania, the dictator, after he gained power, declared himself God and required all of us to worship him. He demolished churches in order to build a palace for himself. Those leaders that are acting that they are creating, a way justice for you, in fact, they are profiting from the problems, and they are living like rich people. If you look at their account and how much they make out of their work and everything,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
Yes. And that's reflected here, because leaders of NGOs here, someone told me, I haven't checked this yet, that Portland has more NGOs per capita than anywhere else in the country. And these guys are paying themselves $250,000 annual salaries or more to be working at a nonprofit, And you said a lot there. I think it's fascinating. In America, I think we used to always look over to Eastern Europe and wonder, why don't those people rise up? Why don't those people rebel and get rid of their socialist and communist rulers? Well, the answer, I think, we learned in America during COVID, because the amount of incursion by government on our personal rights during the COVID crisis was astounding. And we just bowed down and took it. We didn't fight back. The Centers for Disease Control, CDC, and prevention, they came out with an order saying, landlords who own apartment buildings, you're not allowed to evict anyone during this crisis, and you're not allowed to raise rents. Well, who the hell is this disease control agency to put out an order like that. To hell with you. It's my property. You just violated my property rights. And look at the ridiculous masking. Here in Portland, you can still see a few people wearing masks. And it's a key sign to just how liberal they are. Okay. COVID turned into a cold 4 years ago. If you're still wearing a mask, you're being kind of ridiculous. And so, but we gave up our rights here, even in America, the most ornery country in the world. We let government just overtake us. They filled us with fear that we did not need to have. And we
Yes,
just kind
and
of
you
laid down.
you're perfectly right on that. We had in Texas, which is such a strong conservative state, we had in Texas during COVID, the government ordering churches for the pastor to present the copy of their sermon before they preach the sermon to the church. And the church had to stand up and say, you cannot do this, but this is a form of socialist government imposing this.
Yes.
And they will go on and on, because as we keep our mouths shut and we are silent, we will be silenced by the government. But we talk about the problem. Tell us, how do you see the solutions? What are the solutions that you
Right.
present to people?
I've been asking this of people here, because all a journalist knows really is what other people tell them, right? And that's both the great thing and the weakness of journalists, I guess. But they say that, first of all, you need a Republican Party that stands up instead of feeding at the same trough and happy to be number two. The Republican Party here, they have not elected a Republican governor in 40 years. But the Republican Party here is like the team, the Washington Generals, that is paid to lose every game to the Harlem Globetrotters, okay? The Republicans are happy to lose. So they have to stand up. The more important thing is the business community here. I've had people that I've interviewed say the business community is a bunch of wimps, that they trade acquiescence for access, that they are so happy to have a seat at the table that they don't realize that business is on the menu, because government just keeps raising taxes on businesses, and it's why businesses are leaving. Intel has axed 7,000 jobs here. Columbia Sportswear, one of only 3 billionaires in the state, Tim Boyle, they've moved operations for some brands out of Portland and moved it elsewhere. And you pay a price for that kind of thing. So the business community needs to rise up and make itself known and start saying, you know what? We call BS on all of this. This is going the wrong direction. But instead, they speak
You
in
are talking
euphemisms.
about the Republican Party in Portland, because the Republican Party in general and President Donald Trump, it's a powerful leader. He works and he does amazing things, even for religious rights. He is maybe the president that has done and is doing more than Ronald Reagan has done for religious rights in America or in Eastern
Sure.
Europe. But the Republican Party in general and President Ronald Reagan, President Donald Trump is doing a very important job. You are talking about the Republican Party in Portland or the Republican Party
Yes.
in New York, yes?
Yes, I am. It's
Yes.
the
Okay.
state Republican Party. But here's the other side of that coin that you just are talking about. And that is that Trump, well, Dan Levy, a Republican operative here for many years, talks about the nationalization of local politics. And the Democrats in Oregon hate Trump so much that anything and everything he does sends them into knee-jerk, lockstep opposition, no matter what it is. You want to kill cartel members? We're very upset about killing cartel members because Trump wants to do it. Trump has ignited the flames of this vehement opposition and is stopping the state from fixing the things that it needs to fix because, oh my gosh, if Trump's in favor of it, we're against it. Well, Trump is the most pro-business president of all time because he was a businessman for decades before he was ever a politician. And business is the key to growth. Business is the key to fixing what is wrong with Oregon and what is wrong with Portland. If you have business investment, capitalism, this is a saying I invented, and I should put it on a t-shirt and sell it. Capitalism is optimism monetized. You don't invest in the future unless you feel like things are going in a good direction. And here in Oregon, growth is utterly stalled because the business people investing are feeling like this is a crazy place and I don't want to invest more business here.
It's true that not only in Portland or in New York, liberal are hating Trump, and they have a good reason because he has done, in their idea, they have a good reason because he has done so much for America. He has done in his second term so far so many wonderful things, and they are afraid that many of them will not be able to win their position in the new election. But the problem is not only the government or the leaders. People have to wake up. And what is your solution? What do you think, and how do you think people in Portland or people in New York can be make aware, can wake up and say enough, it's enough, and be involved and make changes?
So, one thing, unfortunately, this is like when you're dealing with an addict. And so long as the addict's doing okay, functioning all right, high functioning addict, they're never going to get off the drugs. They have to hit rock bottom. And Portland and the US and New York City haven't hit rock bottom yet. And so you need that, unfortunately, to happen. In this country now, nothing gets done unless we can depict it as a crisis.
And
And so
how
everything,
how do you think we can help them to reach that rock bottom, to realize
yeah.
that they need to change the position?
So one thing is we need a more vocal opposition to raise up and say, "Are you crazy?" My entire book, Oregoners, is basically like the scene in the movie Ghost, where Patrick Swayze is a ghost. He's trying to tell Goldberg to tell his girlfriend, that things are really, scary right now. And she says, Whoopi at one point says, "Molly, you're in danger, girl." So we need more messaging like that tells Oregon and other liberal cities, you're in trouble. I mean, look at what's happening in New York, Newark, Baltimore, Chicago. Uh, uh, you know, these cities have allowed homeless encampments to just proliferate, have allowed bad things to get worse and worse, and never kind of fessing up and saying, "Hey, we're in trouble here." There is denial throughout the entire political leadership of Oregon and Portland, utter
Yeah,
denial. And this one guy at the
it's
conference
normal
just
to be the leaders of those liberals to have this kind of attitude, and it's easier for me to understand why, because I grew up in socialists. Because those leaders live like rich people. This leader live far away from what normal people in this their state live, and they have media and they have everything at their finger tip to make people think and believe that everything is wonderful. But real people in those cities and towns, they know that it's not real. The problem is, how do we help them to have the courage? Because right now these people, even as they know that the situation is not like their leader said, their leader said that it's lying, they are afraid that if they speak, they will lose even what they have. How
yeah,
do we help them? How do we help them to
yeah.
rise up and be courageous?
This morning at the leadership conference in Portland, I had a guy tell me, retired business guy, now helping the state government advising it. He said, in every other organization, in every other entity, or maybe it was he says, you judged outcomes based on results. He said, government, the only thing they use to judge it is, do we keep getting elected? And the people in Oregon keep reelecting the same old, tired leaders, and they haven't woken up. I was just told, I haven't checked this, that Oregon as a state voted 40% for Donald Trump. Yet it has only one congressman out of six, I think it is, who's a Republican. They haven't elected a statewide Republican in 30 or 40 years. And so just the same circle, Democrat, liberal, socialist, ends up getting reelected. And so only when they start getting defeated will they wake up and start doing something about it. But it starts though, doesn't it, with trying to
Yeah,
wake people
yeah.
up, which is what you're doing. And you're bringing your own personal experience and you're saying to people here in America, "Hey, been there, done that. you guys are making a big mistake here. So we just got to keep hammering on that message and try to
Yes,
wake
it's
people up.
not.
There
It's
are
not.
signs it's happening.
It's not only they are making a big mistake. From my own experience is that when socialist takes power, it takes years, 50, 60 years or more. Look, in China, it's still in power because they take your guns, they take your power, they take your freedom of speech, they put you in jail. Wherever one person in a family will say something, the entire family will be punished and so forth. You suffer for a very long time, but there is hope. You say that if people will read your book, they will be waking up. So tell us where the audience can find your book.
Well, start follow me now, please, at Dennis Kneale, Kneale, at Dennis Kneale on X. It is the single most important media platform in the world. It is where real news takes place, real policy gets announced all the time, every day. And so I'm there preaching this message about Oregon. It's going to be, unfortunately, not until next year before my book, Oregoners, comes out. And it is rather arrogant of me to even believe that one little book can have some kind of impact in this mass landscape of so many voices speaking. But you know what? You got to get up to bat and swing for the fences. And that's what I'm doing on this thing. You know, I got interested in the book because of my book, the Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. And it's 11 lessons of Elon, borrow from his life and career to build a better life and career for yourself. And he was so worried about the woke mind virus. It's why he spent $44 billion to buy Twitter, because he felt like we're going over the edge here. And thank goodness that he did this, because he really has helped counterbalance that lockstep socialist brainwashing that's been going on. And so I can hope he can continue to do that. And
Well, Dennis, let me tell you something. Do not be discouraged because you never know. I can tell you that my book, Saving My Assassin, like I said, you can find it at virginiaprodanbooks.com, is people are reading the book and they realize when they read the book, because it explains how socialists took power, how I fought against socialists, and how dangerous is socialists for America. It's amazing. People from not only from America, because I go and speak all over America and around the world, people are telling me how much they learn from this book. And sometimes people are telling me how they stand up, how they change things in their home, in their business, in their community. So you never know. So
that's right.
Dennis, we just want to thank you for coming here to our podcast, and I hope that people will go, and when your book will be published, will buy your book and will learn not only from my book, Saving My Assassin, but also from your book, how to stand up and how to turn this around, because we receive freedom from generations that stood up and sacrificed for us to live in freedom, and it's our
Yes.
time to sacrifice and stand up, no matter how much we're going to pay for that, and let freedom ring back in America. Thank you
Well,
so very much, Dennis, for coming to our podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Virginia. I appreciate it. And maybe this happens, this victory on our side happens with thousands of little tiny victories instead of some one big huge event. And thank you for fighting this fight.
Thank you so very much. I hope you will share this podcast with others. And don't forget to send us your comments and your question. We are here to help you. You can go to virginiaprodanbooks.com/contact and send us your question and your comments. Until next time, our podcast is Wednesday and Saturday. And until next time, God bless you and tell us how your life has been changed by what you learned today. Until next time, bye-bye.